The Starfire Protocol build is back, and let me tell you guys, it's lethal AF. If you thought the Starfire build was good back in the day, well, it just got an upgrade. You're going to be running around in content whilst massively underpowered, just melting everything with basically infinite fusion grenades and rifts. And the best part is that it's even easier to use now more than ever, and in fact it's actually better to use this build in harder content because of one artifact perk that we'll get to later in the video. So if you need a build for the hardest difficulty in the game when you get there, then this is definitely the go-to. It smashed out the legendary campaign, it wrecks mythic world tier, and it obliterates in content whilst underpowered with modifiers going against you. This isn't just your standard Starfire Protocol build though, because we're combining this bad boy with the classic Polaris Lance. Basically, you'll be able to shoot infinitely without needing to reload and get to spam those grenades, and you don't even need an empowering rift. All you need is Radiant, and this will be applied all the time from just shooting enemies. It's basically like all the times, but kinda better. Remember when you would used to spam grenades with a Witherhoard and a demo rocket launcher? Well, you can still basically do that, but the best part is that you don't even need a well or a rift at all now. And considering my grenade stat isn't even maxed out with this build, it can only get better. So guys, if you like this one, then be sure to leave a rating, comment, subscribe and share for more top builds. And without further delay, let's cause some Starfire chaos. Now before we jump into the build, like every build video, I will mention that the full playlist of new and updated builds is linked down below, so go check it out if you want, because you might just find your new best build in there. But now getting into the build video, this is your newly busted Starfire Protocol Warlock Fusion Grenade build, and we're not just using this because of the new artifact perks, we're actually using this because of a few global buffs. So if you're not aware, the main new buff we have now to Starfire is that it now activates on radiant damage, and it also increases fusion grenade recharge rate from damaging enemies by double the previous amount. It might not seem like much, but that does add up very quickly considering we have a ton of other buffs going on that's all going to stack together nicely. So we're going to amplify those gains. The second thing we have is the new stat rework to grenades. So from 100 to 200 grenade stats, you'll increase the damage of your grenade by up to 65%, which is huge for this build considering fusion grenades are already good enough as they are. So if you can get that stat to 200, you'll be melting literally everything. But the main thing carrying this build though that makes it very strong right now is due to two artifact perks. The first is Fever and Chill, as rapid precision hits with solar weapons grant Radiant, so just hitting shots will give us Radiant, and because we're Radiant, that will trigger Starfire Protocol to kick in and give us grenade energy. But the second perk, Shield Crush, while we have Radiant, our grenades recharge faster and deals increased damage. We're likely only throwing grenades while Radiant most of the time, since our goal is to get the grenade back quickly, so we'll be shooting ads and bosses while being Radiant, and because of that we're going to be getting our grenade back to then throw, so faster grenades and higher damage on them too. It is pretty busted. Now basically the way you'll use this build is you'll start by throwing a fusion grenade at an enemy to damage them, but ideally kill them. You'd then throw the second grenade charge, place down a rift as well, and just keep shooting them with empowered weapon damage to get the grenade back faster. You don't even have to use an empowering rift, and in fact you don't have to use a rift at all, because we can get Radiant from rapid precision hits, which counts as empowered damage. So just by damaging enemies while you have Radiant will grant a grenade energy, so it does make this build extremely useful in endgame. And you will also notice that we have like fireballs coming out and attacking everything as well. That's just a bonus perk that will make the build even stronger than it already is. I mean, it's actually quite incredible really, because you can just spam fusion grenades and get basically unlimited rifts as well if you want to. So if you want the healing rift at any time, then you can just kill enemies with fusion grenades, because that will give us ability energy. What you can also do is, if you want to go the classic pre-nerf Starfire route, you could use a Witherhoard and a weapon with the demo perk to auto reload weapons when throwing grenades, and just constantly swap between all three weapons, rapidly spamming grenades like before. But bear in mind, with perk pools in the current sandbox meta, we now have things like bait and switch and other good perks that would probably outperform much better. So it really depends on your playstyle and what we currently have in the game at the current time. But even if you're using solar weapons like a solar linear for example, you still don't need that rift or well to charge the grenade because of being Radiant. So it is a good build to use again, since it doesn't rely on needing a rift or a well. When it comes to the weapon choice, if you are going to take advantage of precision hits to become Radiant and not have to rely on empowering rifts, then it's pretty obvious that Polaris Lance is your go-to as your best weapon choice, especially in harder activities. But if you want to go the more casual route and more close up, then Sunshot is your next best option. Otherwise, just check out the exotic weapons featured section and use any solar weapon of your choice in there, since they get a damage bonus due to being featured, so it is worth using. If you don't want to use exotics, then you do have good legendaries like a Callous Mini Tool. Might be harder to consistently stay Radiant though if you're not hitting those crits, but still a great weapon to use. For exotic armor, we are using the Starfire Protocol since this has been changed recently, so now fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage, with empowered weapon final blows granting more energy. Defeating targets with fusion grenades grant rift energy. So by just being Radiant, that counts as empowered weapon damage, so the rift and well are not required, and we'll get that Radiant from the artifact perk I spoke about earlier. In the subclass, what we are using is firstly the Song of Flame Super, just since it's a better option to use now, but well is still acceptable and recommended for boss DPS, so it's still worth using in things like a dungeon or raid. I was using an empowering rift, but in the end I did swap to a healing one, but you guys can use what you prefer and what works best for you, so just experiment around. But for the melee, you want the Celestial Fire, just because it's a far better melee ability in my opinion, and of course the fusion grenades since we need those for this build. For the aspects, we have Touch of Flame, so our fusion grenades explode twice. Then the second aspect is Icarius Dash, just because I like the movement when using a sword. But if you don't care about that, then your best choice for more effective at clearing is to just use Helion. But I will cover a separate build dedicated to that at some point, as we got a new exotic that benefits that aspect specifically. For fragments, you want Ember of Resolve, so solar grenade final blows cure you. Ember of Char, so solar ignitions spread scorch to affected targets, just helps with more ignition effects, sort of like a chain reaction. But we also have Ember of Ashes, so we apply more scorch stacks, and then Ember of Eruption, so solar ignitions increase the area of effect. That one I strongly recommend since we are going to be igniting literally everything. Then for artifact perks, you got Anti-Barrier Scout Rifle, which is great for Polaris Lance. We do have Rapid Precision Rifling to boost our stats slightly as well. Doesn't matter too much if using Polaris. But also Fever and Chill for the Radiant on rapid precision hits. Elemental Benevolence for class ability energy when granting allies an elemental buff. Always handy to have. Then we also have this one here to increase the solar damage against stasis and strand debuff targets. So if any teammates are using those when you're playing, we will benefit from that. Otherwise, the other perks we have are these two here to get damage resistance and generate more elemental pickups. Those will be Fire Sprite so that we get more grenade energy. And then the last two are Radiant Shrapnel, so we can release solar projectiles on sustained weapon damage while Radiant. And the biggest one, Shield Crush, so that while Radiant our grenade recharges faster and deals more damage. Those are all the artifact perks being used with this build that really make this build strong and effective. When it comes to the stat choice, your priority should be getting the grenade stat to 200. If you can't make it there to 200 exactly, then just get it as high as you can until you get that armor. And with those armor archetypes, you'll probably end up getting stats in the super as well, which isn't a bad one to have, but you do want grenades as the priority, then supers and weapons. As for the mods though, you want to prioritize orb generation, so things like a solar cipher mod to generate orbs with your weapons, and then use those orbs to grant yourself grenade energy and armored charge to use on grenade kickstart. And by doing that, you'll consistently be getting grenades back faster than normal, on top of already getting them back quickly due to Starfire and being Radiant dealing damage. It's honestly a fantastic build to use, and I rate this build a straight 10 out of 10. Anyway guys, that is all for this new Starfire Protocol Solar Warlock build in Destiny 2 The Edge of Fate or Season Reclamation. If you found this one useful, then you might like some of my other builds this season, all of which you can find in the new playlist down below or over on my Mobalytics page. So make sure to check those out next, and I'll catch you guys very soon for the next build. Peace out guys.